Welcome, everybody, to Survive in Advance on the Grizzly Crew Sports Network. I'm your co-host for Survive in Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Having a great day, Mike. I'm talking to you. We're talking college basketball today, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we ought to talk about the First Responders Bowl that didn't happen.
What's that? I didn't even know. Is that a college bowl game or something?
Yeah, they played like 10 minutes of it, and then the lightning hit, so they just canceled the damn game. They had 10,000 people there. They weren't selling enough hot dogs, so they just bagged the game.
So are they going to finish the game at any point?
No, it's just, sorry. They're going to refund everybody's money and send all 8,000 fans that attended.
8,000?
I mean, it's like, and it's another reason why there just are too many. 500 teams should not be playing in bowl games.
I believe that was my point that you disagreed with just a week or two ago.
No, I don't disagree with you. I think that they should
not now, but you
not
did.
Play a bowl game before January 1.
You got all mad because I called it meaningless, and you got all pissed. But that's all right. Yesterday,
I see your point. Yes, you're right. I did. That was the only for the purpose of if they're going to have them because it gives college seniors one more chance to put the pads on. Because generally, for most of them, it's the last time they put pads on. So, but let's get on to Brian's. We have a guest.
All right. Yeah. Yesterday we had Angelo Pizzo, which was exciting. Today, Puzio is not his name. It's Pizzo.
P-U-Z-I-O.
No, it's P-I-Z-Z-O. Pizzo. But he wrote Hoosiers.
No, it's not.
Today,
look it up.
It's
look
Pizzo.
It up. It's P-U-Z-I-O.
It's Pizzo. It's P-I-Z-Z-O. Or P-E-E-Z-O is how you say it. So it's Pizzo. All right. And today, from Fansided to Busting Brackets, he has not written a major motion picture yet, but we're hoping he will to make this worth our while at some point. Brian Rauf. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing good. I don't think the major motion picture is happening anytime soon. Sorry to burst your bubble.
Oh, you never know.
So, Mike, this is the guy we have on that works for Fansided, right? Because I think I told every guest I think they work for Fansided. So
yeah, he thinks everybody works for Fansided now. We like had...
I thought everybody worked for Fansided.
Yeah, I don't even remember who it was.
It's a great site. So I'm
sure
second best site on sports aside from the Grizzly Truth.
Keep digging.
But I just think so you're the one who works for Fansided. It's good to know.
Yeah, the Busting Brackets.
Busting Brackets.
The yellow sticky pad right here. Brian Rauf, Fansided. Okay, I've got it now. I got it saved.
He would write it on the back of his hand, but he's got the big R and the L on those, so he can't do that. Let's start off and talk about, another legendary Indiana basketball Hall of Famer with the name of Steve, and that would be Steve Alford. Now, on the bright side, they only lost by 14 to Ohio State, Brian. Is there any way he keeps his job?
No. I don't see a way he keeps it after the season. Even if they perform well in Pac-12 play, like the Pac-12 is not good enough for that to really matter this year, I don't think. And really, if it gets down to it, I think he may be gone before the start of the Pac-12 tournament. Because if he were to somehow win that, I think there might be some clout for him to keep his job if they make the NCAA tournament somehow, and I don't think UCLA wants that to happen. I think they kind of know that it's time for them to move on. And so because of that, I think they may try and cut his opportunities to save his job.
My only question is, why haven't they done it yet? It looks like the perfect time to do it would have been on a long plane flight home from Columbus.
Yeah, they could have Lane Kiffined him.
Or could have just opened the door and kicked his ass out of the plane.
I just don't know if kind of what's a better contingency plan would be. Like, if you have any hope of saving the season and making it worthwhile, I don't know if throwing that added piece of dysfunction is going to improve things. You still have ticket holders who are going to see all the conference games in the next couple months. You got to keep them happy, although I'm sure for a large part of them, firing Alford would make them happy. But I think we'll see him play out most of the year just because I don't think they want to throw that added bonus in there as well.
All right, Steve, did you want to add anything about your best friend?
I know Steve. And I feel badly. He's got a very young, inexperienced basketball team, but they don't. seem to be performing well. They've got a throwaway game this Saturday at 3 o'clock out here against, before they go into the tournament. I think he lasts the season. I just don't think that the vibe out here is not to just get rid of him in the middle. I don't think UCLA operates that way for the most part.
There's not enough people to care either to get rid of him right away, is there?
Right, and that's probably the bigger point, Mike. And Brian, I'm out here, and I'm telling you, it's not even news out here. I mean, we're worried about whether LeBron James has an got his MRI done. Unfortunately, the whole story yesterday in sports out here was LeBron's okay. He's going to sit out a game and rest a little bit, not going to play tonight for the Lakers. But there's really not much chatter about Alford out here. I mean, there's a little bit of rumblings, but, I hate that because he is a friend, and I hate to see it happen, but I think it's inevitable. But I bet he lasts the season at least. It's weird out here. It's just really weird. Recruiting out here is weird. Most of the good players go east. Really, they do. And it's hard to keep the good players out here. He has a very young coaching staff surrounding him, which doesn't bode well. And, I don't know. I don't think anything happens. I think they keep him the whole year.
All right.
After they say that, I'll hang up, and there'll be a bulletin come out that says he's been relieved of his duties. Well, who knows? I hate it because he can get me on any good golf course in Los Angeles.
Obviously, he can't. He can't. I mean, because you've been waiting for him to get you on one, and he hasn't. So, not
but he can. Touche, well played.
So, I would say.
Hey, I got another. While we're talking coaches. This is another one I just wanted to ask Brian about. How safe is Matt Painter at Purdue?
I think he's safe. Just with it being a year after they made a pretty good run, got a 2 seed last year, I believe, made the Sweet 16, right? No matter how bad they're going to be, I think everybody kind of figured they were going to take a step back because of all the pieces they lost. So because of that, I think it kind of gets a little bit of a pass for this year.
I mean, because I was looking on the rankings of all the teams, and they were talking about the way they thought the Big Ten was going to play out this year, and about everybody's got Purdue in the second tier. They don't have Purdue in the top tier of the rankings of saying how their prediction is that the rankings are going to fall out in the Big Ten, and this is a basketball program really that. Because they live under the shadow of Indiana, and now Indiana has resurged and started to make its move back up to the top and getting better and better. And Purdue had this great opportunity to kind of own Indiana for a while, and they didn't capitalize on it. I think that every year Purdue has gotten in a tournament in the last 4 or 5 years, I remember, it's really been a failure for them. I mean, they've underachieved. And now Indiana's back in the fold. For a while, it's kind of like, I say this about the Clippers out here in L.A. The Clippers had this golden opportunity when the Lakers were just tanking to own Los Angeles, and they didn't capitalize on it either. And now the Lakers are back. And so now the Clippers go back. I mean, you can buy a front row seat to a Clippers game for about $500. That same seat in a Lakers game costs you $15,000. If you want to sit on the floor front row.
LeBron has something to do with that, too.
Yeah, well, sure he does. Yeah, but I mean, Purdue's had. I think it's interesting to watch. Again, Matt Painter's another guy I've met and known for a long time, and it's another situation where I think he's somewhat falling into jeopardy too.
So what I think we're realizing here, Brian, is if you're a college basketball coach, don't know or be friends with Steve Risley because it's bad luck.
That's probably that may be bad karma.
All right.
I'm not saying I'm friends with him. I mean, I don't, I don't call him and send him Christmas cards, and they don't send me Christmas cards. But if I walked into a room, we would go shake hands and talk to each other and tell stories other than just how's your team doing. And we have that capability.
You couldn't ask that to those guys.
I wanted to text Coach Alford after but I thought it's probably not a good idea. Just leave him alone. He's probably already got enough bad karma.
All right, let's talk a little Buffalo Bulls. They had a huge opportunity we talked about last week on the show at Syracuse, at Marquette. I think they did themselves good here, Brian. They get the big win at Syracuse. In the Marquette game, Marcus Howard, I don't know if anybody would have beat Marquette that night the way Marcus Howard shot the ball.
No, and I mean, that 40-point second half was something that we won't see again this season and may not see again for a very long time. We said they needed to get kind of one of those two to feel good about their chances, and they got that one against Syracuse. So I think Buffalo, with the MAC being better, too, than I think people expected, Central Michigan is a good team. Toledo's a good team. I think both of them, and Ball State as well. Two of those three rank in the top 100 in Ken Palm's ranking. So they'll actually be good wins for Buffalo in conference play. With that win over Syracuse, and the West Virginia win doesn't look as good now, but just kind of having one of those wins is really good for them. And I agree, the committee's not going to hold that Marquette loss against them.
All right, Steve, you want to go ahead and kind of look at the conferences since we're right before conference season starts, and maybe we'll get some picks on who each one of us thinks are going to win the major conferences. Sound good to you?
Fire away.
You good with that, Brian?
What?
Sounds good.
All right, we're going to do this.
Listen, I'm looking at all the polls here. Brian, I'm looking at Associated Press, Coaches Poll, top 25 and 1, and CBS Sports. I got 4 number 1 teams. Who's the best team in the country right now, Brian? Is it Duke, Virginia, Tennessee, or Kansas, or Michigan, which is not number 1 in any of them?
I've been saying it's been Duke for a while. And that loss to Gonzaga was tough, but I mean, that was a great game, and they've been playing really well ever since. They have their flaws, but they've, I think, played and beaten 4 top 12 teams, which is more than anybody else in the country has. I guess played 4, beaten 3. And their resume is as good as anybody's. They have more talent than everybody. So I think I would go Duke right now, but that's kind of one of the fun storylines is there's a case you could make for a legitimate case you could make for a number of teams.
All right, so let's go ahead and I was going to look at
we're not done with this conversation yet. I saw Tennessee play.
Nobody cares who's number 1 is right now. And I thought we would talk about each one of these teams by going through the conferences. But, all right, go ahead.
I saw Tennessee play, and I think they're overrated. I think they play bully basketball. They're not a team that's going to stand well in the tournament. And I look at things from a different perspective. Necessarily. I just don't think their style of play is going to bode well in the tournament.
What's your different perspective? The fact that you watched them once for 5 minutes and don't think they'll play well in the tournament?
No, I watched most of the game, and I just don't think
Who did they play?
I don't even remember who it was. They were beating the crap out of whoever it was. It was on TV last Saturday. I was bored to death, waiting for the NFL games to come on.
Yeah,
so I said, let me go see this Tennessee.
Yeah.
I think they didn't impress me as a team that's going to sustain well in the tournament play.
Yeah.
League play, I think they'll be fine.
Well,
Kansas, I think, is overrated. I just don't. Again, I don't know why Kansas is up there. Why everybody has this love affair with Kansas?
They're Kansas.
Yeah, they're Kansas.
Yeah.
That's it.
Same reason Kentucky. Kentucky's unranked. They beat North Carolina, and all of a sudden they're at like number 12 or 14 or 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's because they're Kentucky.
Yeah, and I think Duke. I say I watched Michigan play too. That's a well coached, good performing, high performing team of basketball players.
Who'd you watch them play?
I don't remember who they played either. They were playing some Putz team. There's no.
Well, isn't it kind of hard to judge against a Putz team?
No, Mike, it's not. See, because idiot fans like you
don't
watch the game right. You don't look at who they're playing, look at the score of the game.
I know.
You take a look at you just watch that team, and how is that team performing? How is that team meshing together? How are they listening to their coach? What adjustments are being made?
Dumbest thing you've ever
said. You don't worry about the opponent.
All right, so
a coach that I played for, there was Mike.
Whatever. You don't worry about your opponent. I know, but you know what?
No.
If 3-9 George Washington is playing your team, maybe your team looks like a high-performing team because they're playing a team of what you called putzes. So isn't it a lot easier to look better against putzes?
I'm going to close out on this, and then we can go do the conference crap, okay?
That's what you said you wanted to do earlier in the week, so go ahead.
All right. I'm going to finish this. The teams, when I played college basketball for a legendary coach,
pre-modern era,
the games that we got chewed out the most in was every time we played Northwestern. I hated playing Northwestern because we couldn't play well enough to beat Northwestern bad enough, because it was a game of how well we played to our potential, and it didn't matter. We could duel and lose to Michigan by a point at the buzzer, and it wouldn't be as bad of a plane ride home as it would be beating Northwestern. At the time when I was playing, Northwestern was a punch team. They're not anymore. But we would get more crap coming home from Chicago than we would from Ann Arbor. And it was because it was all about you guys did not play to your potential. You didn't play well. You didn't execute well. Your opponent is not the problem here. The problem is how well are you playing to your potential. And I'm looking at games like that, and I'm thinking Michigan is playing to their potential very well. Tennessee, I don't think can get to their potential. I don't think they have much potential. They're maxed out.
They don't have much
Michigan
potential.
can grow. Kansas is maxed out.
They are.
Duke has the most potential of anybody in the
Brian,
country, bar none.
You are here still, right? It's been like 20 minutes since Risley shut up. But my question to you is this. Isn't Kansas missing one of their best players?
Yeah, Azubuike's out, the big guy, but I don't know how much of a difference that'll make, because in his absence, what's happened is their guards have been terrible. They need Dietrich Clausen's playing really well, and Gerald Vick's giving them a little bit of a boost every now and again with his shooting. But outside of those two guys, they've been really underperforming. So, yeah, Azubuike coming back is going to help them look better. But their problems go far beyond just him being out.
All right, go ahead, Steve. Finish your thought.
No, I'm done. I'm done. It's Brian's show. Brian, take it over.
Here we go. Now he's going to pout like a bitch. All right, we're going to start off with the American Athletic Conference, because there's no reason to talk about the American Athletic Conference. It's better than the Pac-12.
What the hell is that?
It's better than the Pac-12. Isn't there a conference
called the American Athletic Conference?
Well, they got at least two teams ranked in the top 25, Steve. It looks like with your high-performing bullshit, you know who's in the top 25.
I got 5 lists in front of me. I've even got the Bonehead Genius Grueling Truth Network top 25. Some idiot writes that.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
No, it looks like everybody else's list. You copy somebody else's plagiarism.
I copy somebody else's list, even though mine came out 3 days before everybody else's.
Okay, go ahead.
How about that? Well, mine came out on Sunday. The other ones came out on Monday. So you can kiss my ass. All right, so if we look at the American Athletic Conference, we've got Cincinnati at 11-2. We got Houston at 12-0.
Oh, that's why
Temple
you're talking about the American Athletic Conference. Cincinnati. I get it now.
I actually can't stand the Cincinnati Bearcats. So once again, you're wrong, you high-performing asshole. All right, so Brian, what do you think about the American Athletic Conference? I'm in a bad mood today.
I think it's Houston's to lose at this point. Cincinnati is good, but we've seen time and time again from them over really the whole McClellan era and this year as well.
And Bob Huggins era. Offense. They can't shoot.
And they don't have enough offense to consistently beat the good kind of teams they're going to need to beat to win a conference or to make a long run in the NCAA tournament. Houston's not going to go undefeated this year, but they are a lot better than I think people give them credit for. UCF is not the team people thought they were going to be at the start of the year either. So I really think it's Houston's to lose right now.
Is there any dark horse here we should keep an eye out for?
No, not really. I mean, maybe UConn. If UConn gets hot, starts to come together, which certainly isn't out of the question with Dan Hurley. But I think they're still probably a year or two away from really competing at that level. So I would still go with Houston. But if anybody comes outside of those top 3 to really make a run, it would be UConn.
All right, Steve. What can you make up about the American Athletic Conference?
I can't make anything about it. I don't know anything about this conference, so I'm not even going to play on this one. I just let it go.
Just pick
whatever.
Houston.
I saw
all right,
Cincinnati
next
play.
up.
Didn't they beat UCLA?
Who?
Cincinnati.
Yeah, they beat them by like 180 points or something.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Yeah.
All right,
Brian, you cover these, baby, because I'm like,
next
really,
up,
you don't get into the Power 5, okay. I don't care.
Next up, I'm sorry, but that conference is much better than the Pac-12. So it looks like you would have known about it.
You're right there.
All right, next up, the ACC, which right now looks like a Duke-Virginia battle, but there's a lot of other quality teams there, Brian. Who do you think wins this one?
I'm sorry, which conference? I missed the first
ACC.
Part.
He didn't know anything about the ACC.
In terms of a regular season title, I know I said that Duke was the best team in the country, but I think Virginia will win it again. Their style for a regular season game is just too tough. The way they defend their home court as well. Duke's bound to go because they haven't played a true road game yet. And with their youth is bound to go on the road and play a couple of games where they struggle and don't look like the Duke team we're used to seeing. UNC, I think, has as much talent as anybody in there, but haven't really put it together yet.
They don't have the coaching. Let's just say it. They don't have the coaching that Duke has. Roy Williams is, I think, the most overrated coach since Dean Smith.
He is really, really struggling this year. And he hasn't made any changes to his rotations, really anything, which is a big, big problem for them. But Virginia, as we've seen, they're super consistent, have that edge dimension we've talked about on past shows with DeAndre Hunter now becoming a real factor on offense. So I think they may surprise some people and out-edge Duke for that conference title.
What's your take on Florida State? Because that's a team the last 2 years been very athletic. The year you didn't think they would make a run in a tournament, they did. The year before, when you thought they would, they didn't. What's your take on Florida State?
They're legit. They're tough to play because of that athleticism and length and the fact they go 10 deep with their pressing style defense. They're a real tough matchup just because of how they play and then the talent with which they play it at. I still think they're probably a step behind those three teams. I would expect UNC to find a way to put it all together eventually. Although Roy is probably overrated as a coach, I think he's still good enough to kind of figure out what works with this group. So I'd probably have them finishing fourth, but they're a team that could make another run in the tournament like they did last year.
All right, Steve, you know anything about the ACC?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, a little bit, not much. I think Maryland's going to win
Okay.
it.
Oh man, you didn't Google and put ACC and then put like 1988 behind it.
I did ACC 1982 and somehow about Maryland.
Buck Williams. With Buck Williams, though, I agree.
Yeah, and Albert King.
Yeah, Buck Williams, Albert King. They're going to be hard. But who do you like in the ACC?
I tend to agree with Brian. I like Virginia. I hate to say it because I don't like Kyle Guy for personal reasons. It's a joke. It's a joke. I think Kyle Guy's a great player. But I think
except for when he had the man bun. I didn't like the man bun.
Yeah, well, the man bun thing does kind of bum me out a little bit, but that's all right, whatever. I think top to bottom, Virginia's going to be the most consistent team. For the regular season, like Brian said, I mean, and I agree, too, with you, Mike. I think that Dean Smith's second coming, Roy Williams, is just probably not doing North Carolina a lot of favors anymore. You're starting to watch that program slowly. Brian, would you agree they're kind of slowly declining a little bit in stature?
A little bit, but no, I don't think we can really say as much. Just from
it's a slow descent. I mean, it's a very slow descent. But I think at tournament time, I'm not betting against Duke. You can say what you want to about regular season, that's fine. But come NCAA tournament time, I think you can potentially see Virginia and Duke in the Final Four. I think that'd be fair because I think they're two of the four best teams out there right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right. Next up, we've got the Big 12, which to me, I like Texas Tech. And after watching them play Duke the other night, Brian, I like Texas Tech even more. I think they can win this conference. Kansas is probably still the favorite, but to me, I think Texas Tech wins this, and I'd still watch out for Kansas State.
I don't know if Kansas State has the offense, but I do think if anybody's going to knock off Kansas, and I don't know if Kansas is really the best team in the conference, given what we kind of talked about earlier, But if anybody's going to do it, I don't think anybody will because Kansas's home court is good for a couple wins they shouldn't get every year. If anybody's going to do it, I think it will be Texas Tech.
All right, what do you think about Oklahoma and Iowa State? Because those would be two teams I think that could sneak up and maybe do something. And also throw in TCU there because of the record, but I don't think the competition's been there yet for any of the three of them that much, has it?
Not for Oklahoma. I think we'll see them fall back to earth a little bit once they hit conference play just because the teams they've beaten have been brand names, but it hasn't really boosted them up at all. Like the teams they've beaten, the USCs, the Floridas of the world, aren't good this year. And I think it's kind of taken people some time to realize that. They start out their conference schedule really, really tough. So we'll find out by mid-January if Oklahoma's actually for real or not. And I don't really think they are.
Yeah, and I think Iowa State is another team that hadn't really been tested yet, have they? I mean, the biggest win I see on there is against Missouri. They lost to probably the two best teams they played outside of that in Arizona and Iowa, and I know Iowa beat them by double digits, and I'm not really convinced Iowa's that great. Steve, Big 12, who you like?
Well, I mean, you got to look at Kansas. I mean,
no, because you said that they sucked and they're overrated. So if you pick Kansas to win their conference,
I don't consider the Big 12 a basketball powerhouse conference. So I mean, I look at teams that I think that I look at games differently than I think for ranking purposes. I don't look at the opponents that they're playing, and the problem here, I think Brian's going to agree with me here, is that really nobody's played anybody really hard back to back consistent. I mean, they've all had the big, television made games. Where they put on TV, but you've not seen anybody have to stress through 2 or 3 game schedule that they get in the conference. When, say, Kansas has got to go to Texas Tech, got to play Oklahoma State, got to play Kansas State, then you start getting what the character of each team is. Until now, it's a crapshoot. I mean, I don't see in Kansas, what I've seen of Kansas, I don't see them really having the moxie to get through past the Sweet 16, or I haven't seen it yet. I haven't felt it in the times I'm not seeing a complete game, but I've watched enough of the games to see how the team plays. Texas Tech, I liked the way they played basketball. I thought they were real tough-nosed, and I liked that. And
tough-nosed?
They had some resiliency.
What the hell is tough-nosed? I've never heard of that one.
They play hard basketball. They played hard all the time. With the time I was watching Texas Tech play, I felt like those kids are playing hard all the time.
Yeah.
They're playing. They're not backing off and playing to the level of their opponent. They're not doing that. They're playing to their own level, and they're maintaining that level of play throughout the course of the game. Now, whether that level is good enough to get them past the Sweet 16, that's what we'll find out. But I like that aspect of it. I think Duke is another team like that plays hard all the time. And I just look and see how teams play to their opponents and what level of gear do they run in on normal cruising speed. They're running at third gear, they're running at fourth gear, they're running in overdrive. What are they doing? Kansas, I don't think plays at a very high level. I think they play on talent, and they let their talent slide up and down as to where their opponent is. Texas Tech, I thought, played at a high level. We really haven't seen enough of the other teams yet to make a call because we haven't seen enough tournament play. I haven't seen enough back-to-back opponents where it's been tough games where you got to retool quickly, come in, and stay at that high level. I haven't seen really anybody do that yet.
All right, next up, Brian, the Big East, which I think last year was one of the best conferences in college basketball. They had 2 top 5 teams most of the year. When you look at them now, I mean, the worst record Xavier at 8-5. Everybody else ranges from 8-4, which is Creighton, up to 12-0 with St. John's. I mean, who's the favorite here? Because I think this is probably a toss-up, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, I don't think Villanova is the favorite anymore, given what we've seen from them. But I would probably go with Marquette right now, the way they've been playing, what we've seen from Marcus Howard so far this year. I don't think you can count out St. John's, but again, they haven't played anybody, so we don't really know kind of what's going on with them. But I would probably give the edge to Marquette right now, but it's going to be really, really close.
What do you think about Villanova? Because since those early losses, they've played better. They almost beat Kansas in Kansas. And this is a team that has an excellent coach and are tournament tough.
They'll be good. They'll finish top half of the conference and they'll make the tournament, but I don't think they're good enough. I don't think they're good enough to really push towards another conference championship. I think we'll see them kind of struggle on the road, and then where teams like Marquette can take advantage of. I think they'll, win double-digit conference games and be fine to where we won't consider this year like a failure for Villanova or anything like that. But I don't think they're good enough. I don't think their guard play is good enough to win.
All right, Steve, what do you think? Big East. I know you've seen Butler.
I think the Big East is the most competitive top to bottom conference in basketball, and I still think it's the best conference in college basketball, top to bottom. I think on any given night, any one of those teams can beat each other, and I enjoy watching that style of play. They play a real physical type of game, and they bang a lot, bang boards, and I've always enjoyed that. The refs let them play. I tell you, to me, Villanova is the Michigan State of the Big Ten. I mean, the Big East. They have a great basketball coach, and I would never bet against a great basketball coach in tournament time. And Villanova continues to improve itself. Butler's a dangerous basketball team. They still run a lot of Brad Stevens' system. St. John's playing well. I mean, there's top to bottom. There's arguments for almost every team to come out every day and upset you or beat you. It's what measures greatness is you're going to have to do it every game in the Big East. And so, but I'm not going to bet against Villanova right now, finding a way. Wright's a great coach. He's a very good basketball coach, and he'll find a way, like Izzo. Izzo's the same way. They'll find ways to beat you in tournament time.
All right, next up we get the Big Ten, which I think is going to be anywhere from 7 to 9 bids in the tournament this year. You got Indiana, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Michigan, Michigan State, Nebraska, Maryland, all teams that I think could win in March, Brian.
Oh, yeah. The Big Ten's going to show well for itself in the tournament, I think. But in terms of winning the conference, it's going to come down to Michigan and Michigan State. And I think they play each other 2 of the last 3 games or 2 of the last 4 conference games. So they'll find a way to kind of get that figured out between the 2 of them late in the year. But right now, I'll probably give a slight edge to Michigan.
All
right. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Michigan's one of the top 5 or 6 teams in the, they're ranked in the top 2 or 3 in pretty much every poll, whatever that means. But I personally, I think the Big Ten is the most overhyped, overmarketed conference in sports. They do such a marketing job. It's kind of like the WWE of college basketball. You're right. There'll be 8 or 9 teams make the tournament, but come Sweet 16, there'll be Michigan State, Michigan, and maybe one other team left, and that's it. They'll all be out. I don't think that their quality of play, from what I see, is not that great. And there's teams that are just they're marketed. They're well marketed. The Big Ten Conference does a great job of marketing.
Well, why didn't they market them last year? They didn't get that many teams in.
Well, I don't have the answer to that. I just think that I think they'll put 8 or 9 teams in. But
only Michigan and Michigan State are capable of getting to the Sweet 16.
Well, I think somebody else will too. Ohio State's in that realm. I mean, Indiana's got potential, but they're a young basketball team. Wisconsin's up there, but other than that, you get beyond that. Maryland, really, you're talking about teams that are just well marketed, and when you're well marketed, you get mentioned in the ranking. So, but I don't see the Big Ten as I think the Big East is a better conference. I would more enjoy watching the Big East than the Big Ten this year. I think it's going to be a more competitive conference.
How many? Okay, so you're thinking there'll be more than 2 Big East teams to get into the Sweet 16?
No, not necessarily. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't speculate.
Actually,
I don't play those games
because you said that only Michigan and Michigan State
would get in.
What
I see right now.
Yeah, but you said the Big East is a better conference. But since you say they're a better conference, I said
it's a more fun conference to watch play basketball, Mike. That's what I said.
It is? Because
I think it
when
is.
I look at it,
what I like to see.
It is? You like to see mediocre play? Because correct me if I'm wrong here, Brian, but I don't think there's a team here outside of maybe Marquette if Howard gets hot that could actually make a deep run into March. I mean, I don't think it's near as good as what it was last year.
I agree. The Big East has a lot of teams that'll make the tournament, probably 5 or 6, maybe even 7. But I think all of them are going to be lower seeds and really be at a disadvantage in terms of making a long run. Plus, Marquette's the only team I think that has the talent to kind of make a run like that.
All right, next up, what do we got? What have we missed so far, Steve? I know Steve loves
you haven't talked about your Pac-12.
Well, the Pac-12, we're just going to talk about Arizona State and how Steve Alford's going to get fired.
That's about it. Yeah, still there.
Have we hit every major conference here?
I don't know. Who we leaving out? What's going on? Hey, Brian, what's going on?
The SEC.
How safe is their coach?
Who's safe as
They're
what?
kind of tanking now, too.
Who's this?
Bray at Notre Dame.
He's not tanking. He's 9-3.
They're not good.
Them play. They didn't look very good.
They beat Purdue.
Oh, everybody's beating Purdue. That's not a big deal.
That's not a true statement. I mean, why would Bray be in trouble, though? He's had pretty good success there.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think Bray's, it would take a couple years of losing for him to really be in jeopardy.
Yeah, I mean, really, nobody, I don't think, expected a lot from Notre Dame this year anyways, did they? I mean, he did lose to Steve Alford.
No.
I mean, losing to Steve Alford could get you fired. They only beat Illinois by 2. Don't make the NIT, Steve. Chill out. The NIT is important.
He built up so much goodwill with that ACC title and the fact that '8 that I think it's going to be a long, long time before we see him kind of get in any sort of trouble.
Do you not think he's a very good coach, Steve?
No, I did not say that. I
didn't say that when you asked, so I was just wondering why you asked, because to me, he wouldn't even be a guy you would have to consider being in trouble, I wouldn't think.
Well, we were talking ACC, and I didn't hear Notre Dame mentioned at all.
Yeah.
In terms of being a relevant team in the ACC, so I just asked the question. I mean,
okay.
It's another one of those well-marketed programs that probably, gets more hype than they're good.
Okay. Next up, we got the SEC, which you've got, of course, Kentucky, Auburn, and Tennessee. Look like the cream of the crop right now. What's your take on Mississippi State, Brian?
Good, but not great. They have some limitations. They can beat anybody in the conference at home. I think we'll see them pull an upset or two, beat a Tennessee, beat an Auburn, beat a Kentucky. But I don't think that their guard play is questionable. They don't shoot well from three-point range, which is a big problem when you go on the road because the defense isn't good enough to carry them, I would say. So I'd put them in the 4-5 range probably in the SEC, which will be a great year for them.
So who do you like in this? Do you like Tennessee? You think Kentucky will pull it out? Auburn's got a good team. Where are you going with this one?
I really liked Auburn until I saw them play NC State, and they just looked really sloppy. Now, some of that may have been with it being a December game after finals, but I think it'll come down to Tennessee or Kentucky in the end. Just kind of, I think Tennessee is playing the best right now, but Kentucky has the most talent. So I think in the end, those two things will win out, and we'll see it kind of decided between those two.
All right, Steve, what's your take on the SEC? I know you love the SEC.
I think that Alabama wins the CFP.
Okay. But what do you think about college basketball?
That's a given.
No, it's not, because they're not going to win. Clemson will win it all. Better coach, better defensive line, better offensive line.
Clemson's not going to get by Notre Dame.
Shit. What do you want to bet? All right. How about this? Let's make this interesting. If Clemson beats Notre Dame, live on air, you have to sing the Notre Dame fight song.
We did this once, and I failed miserably. You really want to take the show back down to that level? Really?
Yeah, because it was
the show has attained a new height. We got guys like Brian. Brian will say, "I'm never back on that show again." And we got talent. Now, somebody who actually knows college basketball.
I think Brian wants to hear you sing the Notre Dame fight song. Don't you, Brian?
I would love to hear him sing anything.
Oh, okay. How about I'm Just a Girl by Gwen Stefani?
It's not pretty. But sure, Mike, I'll take your. You know, I'm a gamer. I'll take your bet.
All right,
Brian.
What are you going to pick the song? What do you want to hear him sing?
Let's do the Notre Dame fight song. I like that idea.
All right.
I think that's good.
All right.
That or something Ariana Grande.
So, who?
Exactly.
I'll tell you, if it's somebody that's after the Beach Boys and Rolling Stones or Beatles or the Eagles,
nope.
I have no clue.
All right, he can sing Hotel California, or we could sing a Bread song. You like Bread, Brian? I bet Brian never heard of Bread.
Best of Bread, best make-out album of all time. If you haven't made out with Best of Bread, you've lost it. You never got it.
Steve says that Best of Bread is such a good album that sometimes he just makes out by himself.
Yeah. I would.
The SEC, I don't know much about. There's such a football conference to me. I just don't pay much attention to them in basketball-wise. It seems like they got a lot of teams ranked this year. But, again, I think that's another over-marketed conference. I don't know how good these guys are.
Next up.
I think when it boils down to it, this is what you're going to find. You're going to find in the Final Four, you're going to find these teams, the teams you're going to be looking for. You're going to be looking for Duke. You're going to be looking for Kansas. You're going to be looking for Michigan State. And you're looking for Virginia. You're looking for ACC teams, mostly a Big Ten team, and then one wild card will come in there and waltz their way through. It comes down to that just about every year. It doesn't change. And we can sit here and have all this hype about how these teams, but there's so much marketing going on right now with these programs, is that, like I said, when I watched Tennessee, when I saw them play, I'm like, what's everybody all bent out of shape about this team for? They're not that good. They're okay. But I don't think they play at a high enough level to where they're going to get past the Sweet 16. They have flaws.
Next up, we are going to go to the Pac-12, Brian's favorite conference. Arizona State beat number 1 Kansas this past weekend. When I look at this, though, my only questions are maybe could Washington or Colorado or Arizona maybe pull something out?
How's it going? Can I help you? I'm trying to find a bathroom.
What do you say?
He's trying to find a bathroom. Hey,
well, I'm sorry, I can't hear. I got these stupid earphones in. What do you say?
He's trying to find a bathroom.
Oh,
all right. So, what's your take on the Pac-12?
That's shitty.
Is Pac-12 just Arizona State, Steve?
Everything I've seen out here, I don't hear. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it doesn't seem to me to be anybody else talking about it out here. There's just no noise out here in California about the Pac-12 at all.
Yeah, Brian, you there? I guess Brian's gone.
Did he really left?
I don't know.
He's probably throwing up thinking of me singing the Notre Dame fight song.
Oh, you got a beautiful voice. I think you do a great job. All right. Oh, man. Okay. Do you have any other sports news you want to talk about?
Well, what happened? How does Indiana continue to win and fall in the polls? What's the deal there with Indiana, Mike?
Nobody believes it. Would be what I think. So, hopefully at some point they will. But I don't think they will. I think this is trouble here. They're going to, if they beat Michigan, you'll see them go up in the rankings. But the Net 32 ranking, which seems to be what people are going to follow more for the tournament, hasn't ranked at like 15 or 16. So that's a good thing.
Well, this Net 32, is this the Ken Poll ranking or what they're talking about?
No, Ken Palm and Net 32 are different. Nobody knows what Net 32 is, but it seems like that's what they're going with during the season.
Well, which is the one that the NCAA is going to use to pick do the rankings? I mean, do the seedings with? They're going to go with Ken Palm, right?
I don't know, because what I hear is net 32 is going to be the way to do it. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean,
I'm looking at KenPom right now. It stays pretty much the same as everything else, but they have all these.
Yeah, the net 32 is different.
All right.
All right. Did you see this? Did you see this about Josh Norman? He threw his helmet at the Titans' Taylor Lewin in post-game clash because Norman felt disrespected because during the game, Lewin told Norman to get the F out of my stadium after the Titans' 25-16 win. And you could actually pull this up, and this is just, I don't know. And Josh Norman's upset about it. Josh Norman's one that always talks crap anyways, I believe, so.
Well, wait a minute now. What? I looked up net 32, and I get dental supplies.
Well, maybe he gets some dental supplies then. He used to work for Pfizer. That's close enough. Yeah, but where was the bowl game at last night that had the 8,000 people and it got canceled?
Do we really not know this much about college basketball that we can't talk about it without Brian?
We can talk about it. There's nothing else to talk about college basketball-wise.
No, there really. See, that's the problem. With college basketball, there isn't because, all teams are pretty much taking the time off right now. I mean, it's just so hard to gauge college basketball when there's these patsy games that keep getting played. And there's, like I said, there's been some good made-for-TV games, but they're kind of like one and one. They're variances. I mean, the Crossroads Classic they did up in Indianapolis was pretty good. But really, truly, none of those four teams were powerhouses and even considered in the top 10 in any conference or any poll anywhere. So, but it was made for TV. We all wanted to see what UCLA was going to do when it came east, and they failed miserably twice. It probably sealed the fate of Steve Alford as a basketball coach there. Which I got to believe UCLA is not an easy place to coach at. Probably more for the rest of the country than it even is out here, because really, truly out here, Mike, they really don't seem to care too much. They just don't get out of play. But now's when the fun starts, and I think this is where you start talking about watching teams have to play tough games. Like Indiana's got to play Illinois.
That's tough games.
And then they've got to play Michigan. And then the season, it's back-to-back for these teams now where they're playing tough opponents. And that's where you start to gauge and see how are the rankings bearing out, how you measure the teams, how well can they handle adversity, how well can they play to their potential, and how consistently can they do it. Because you got to play consistent basketball in a tournament. You know this as well as I do when it's one and done. And you're only now going to begin to see where these things bear out. So we're all just talking rhetoric and, like I said, marketing right now, because you're going out and beating Bicknell or Bucknell or,
Bicknell,
Lyndhurst College or something like that.
Mercyhurst,
I don't even know. UCLA, who are they playing this Sunday?
I think
Saturday.
they played Liberty.
They're playing another. Liberty. Okay, there's another. Yeah, another powerhouse.
Liberty's not as dangerous as Belmont. Belmont's actually a good basketball program.
Yeah.
It didn't surprise me if Belmont beat them. It would surprise me if Liberty beats them.
Yeah. But until you get in these conferences where in the Big Ten and the ACC, they start having to go. Duke's got to run. They got to go play at North Carolina State. They got to go play at North Carolina, and then they got to come back and take on Wake Forest, who's rabid because they want to beat Duke. And that's where you start getting the character and build up of these basketball teams.
But anyway, and I think with Mike Krzyzewski coaching, we know he'll be all right. But Roy Williams is I just don't buy the greatness of Roy Williams. I don't buy the greatness of Dean Smith. The amount of talent he had to only win as many as he did. I mean, would Dean Smith win 2 or 3 national championships?
Yeah, I think he.
He won it in '93.
Didn't they win in '82?
They won it in '82. They won it in '93. I think that's the only 2 he got. And if you compare him,
I don't think he's won. Yeah.
Yeah, you compare him to Bob Knight, who won 3, and the talent they had. I mean, Jesus, Bobby Knight won a national championship with your dumb ass playing for him. There's no way Dean Smith could have won a national championship with you.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, probably North Carolina's had more talent run through it than any other basketball program, other than maybe UCLA in the 60s and 70s.
Oh, I think North Carolina, if you go from the beginning of basketball, college basketball, probably North Carolina's had the most talent run through it. And they still, especially if you go from the mid-1960s, I think Smith started like mid-60s, didn't he? Late 60s, somewhere around there. I know it was in the 60s. But you go for the last 50 or 60 years, they've had the most talent. But they've almost always fallen short. If you remember, Roy Williams did win eventually in Kansas, but he came up short an awful lot with a ton of talent before he actually got it done there, too.
Who was coaching when Manning in '88? Was that?
That was Larry Brown. Manning and
was
it Danny and the Miracles when they made that
run?
Yeah,
Danny Manning and the Miracles.
And that was a special team. I think they had 11 losses, which was a couple more than you guys even did. What did NC State lose their year they won it? Was that 11?
They lost. I think they had like 14 losses or something in that vicinity. They were like 18 and 14. We were 26 and 9, I think, by the time the whole smack was done.
Yeah, because I thought Kansas was one of Larry Brown's best jobs. And Larry Brown, to me, you give me any basketball coach outside of Bobby Knight, I mean, just to coach at any level, it would be Larry Brown, because everywhere he went, if you look, he goes to UCLA, and Gene Bartow takes him to the Final Four the year after John Wooden retires, and then he basically skips town, quits, and starts the UAB program because he didn't want to deal with the pressure of following John Wooden. Larry Brown, 3 seasons later, has got UCLA back to the Final Four. He leaves after that. He goes to Kansas, and Kansas had been down for a while. Kansas hadn't been to a Final Four in a while. I don't think they'd been to an Elite Eight in over a decade when he got there. And before you know it, he's got them, playing in the Final Four in 1986 with a young day. I think that's when Manning was a freshman, and they lost a close game to Duke in the Final Four, and then they go and play for the national championship in 1988 and beat Oklahoma. Billy Tubbs, one of the great upsets you'll ever see with Mookie Blaylock and them. And that was a great Oklahoma team that nobody thought could lose, but Larry Brown figured it out, and that was after losing to him a couple times in a regular season. So, I mean, Brown was a great coach. And to me, Larry Brown was a better coach than either one of those guys at North Carolina we're talking about, because Brown also goes to the Pacers, turns them into a title contender, gets them to the Eastern Conference Final. He goes to San Antonio, a team that had lost 60-some games the next year. They're in the playoffs. He took the 76ers, I think the least talented team in NBA history to make the finals was it 2000 or 2001 Philadelphia 76er team that he took to the finals against the Lakers. They had Allen Iverson and nothing else. And they actually won game 1 when Iverson went off. I think it was in 2001, but he got them to the finals. Even a couple of years ago, he goes to SMU, and then all of a sudden SMU's winning 20 games a year. I think Larry Brown's the most underrated coach in basketball history.
I have to agree. I mean, I'm looking at his Wikipedia page right now. Is he still coaching anywhere?
He was at SMU.
He's 78.
I don't know if he still is.
Is he still at SMU? Is he still there?
His Wikipedia page, doesn't it say? Wikipedia would never lie to you.
Wikipedia, no. It says, let me see, Larry Brown, coaching. No, it doesn't really say. 16, no, he left 2018 to present. Let's see what's it say he's doing now. I don't think he's coaching anywhere right now. I think he left SMU in 2016. Didn't they get in some kind of trouble?
He left in 2016. I don't know. I mean, the big thing about him that people accuse him of is being selfish, because he's pretty much just walked out on everybody. And I know he may get bored, but it's kind of what gets expected of him. And he did that at SMU. He walked out there in like June or July of 2016. He's probably done coaching, but great basketball coach. Maybe not the greatest person in the world.
You know, did we just lose Brian?
Brian's phone died is what he claimed. But we do all know now that Brian was searching for a bathroom. Maybe talking to you so much got him a little hot and bothered.
Could be. I may have finally pissed him off, whatever.
No, you didn't piss him off. He said his phone died. So now, if he's listening, the joke will be on him. But he called back once, and I ignored it, just because now we want to make him think that we're mad at him. That way he'll do whatever we tell him to do from here on out.
Hey, Mike, here's something that kind of made me kind of sad yesterday. You know, we did a great interview with Angelo Pizzo. Okay. But I thought it was a really fun show we did yesterday with him, and got some great insight. But then I'm on Twitter last night, and somebody posts on there an interview right after the situation with Bob Knight happened. An interview with Roy Firestone and Digger Phelps.
Oh, it was on YouTube.
Do you remember that interview?
I don't really remember it. I saw it last night. I was going to click it, but I figured, hell, I've heard enough of this.
I watched it. It was pathetic. I mean, I've never seen it before. Pardon?
Him and Digger basically just giving excuses and defending him.
Yeah, it was started off with Roy Firestone, and I mean, you could see that it was so scripted about how Knight was forced to just blatantly apologize for ever being Bob Knight. And I'd never seen that side of Bob Knight before. I'd never watched that interview before, and a guy
so the interview was when he was after the Neil Reed thing had come out, and he was
it was after the Neil Reed thing had happened, but he had not been. I don't think he'd been fired yet.
Yeah,
and
Brian Rauf just tweeted, "I'm really sorry, guys." So he must not be listening. So anybody out there listening, don't tell him. We're just trying to make him feel worse now. So we won't respond to him until like tomorrow. Go ahead.
But no, I just watched. It was a half-hour show. It was Roy Firestone's show, which I never thought Roy Firestone was a very good interviewer anyway. He was kind of like a Bryant Gumbel of the time, where he just kind of felt like he was smarter than the world and he had more power to ask you stupid questions than anybody else did. Huh?
That's Brian Gumbel.
Yeah, well, that's how Roy Firestone kind of was too. But I had never seen this interview, and I had never seen Bob Knight be so timid or so apologetic. And I'd never heard Bob Knight make excuses for his actions. I'd never seen that side of him before in my life. It was a whole eye-opening thing to watch that interview, because he was definitely just scripting.
I think I do remember that then. And I would have rather he just told everybody to go F themselves and left.
I would have rather he did too. Just say, hey, that's me. I don't care if you don't like it. Fire me. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And and then Digger comes on, and Digger tries to act like his buddy, and tries to ask tough questions. And it's like it's so scripted, because I saw them ask questions of Bob Knight that Bob Knight would have never handled that way, and I didn't like the way he was forced to handle them.
Well, Digger Phelps is basically a bitch anyways. And when I came to that realization? I came to that realization because of you. Because you were supposed to go to Notre Dame. Knight said he'd take care of it, and then Phelps never had any hard feelings about it.
Yeah, maybe I had more reflection on me than a bitch.
I thought that too, Steve. I thought that too. I can't admit.
I got it taken away from me, and it's like that was the best thing that ever happened to me. That may be a different story there.
But this is the thing. Even if I thought that, if this dude's supposed to be my friend and he steals a recruit I wanted, I don't think I'd be friends with him anymore. But then again, that's why Digger never won anything and only made it to one Final Four. He had no spine.
Yeah, no, he had a lot of talent there too. But
Digger
to me, if anybody's still even listening to us anymore, and you want to see a very tempted Bob Knight, which, like I said, I had never seen this thing. I know I'm repeating myself again, but Go Google it. It's on YouTube. And it just put Roy Firestone, Digger Phelps, Bob Knight interview. It was a half-hour show. And it's really a completely different. It didn't look natural. It looked like, why it's a reason why you don't have open caskets. It doesn't look natural. You close the casket. When people die, you just let them die. And they didn't let him die here. It was not good.
Yeah, I don't like open caskets either.
No.
They're creepy.
Well, the bowl game, all I know is that they were playing the First Responders Bowl yesterday. It was Boise State and who else was playing in it?
Have you heard an excuse? It was Boston College, I think. But have you heard an excuse why they're not going to play the game at all?
Boston was up 7-0, yeah.
Why are they not going to play the game at all?
No, they just canceled the game. No, I read it this morning because in case you decided to talk about it, they went 10 minutes into the game. The storms came in, the lightning hit, and there was like 8,000 to 10,000 people in the stands at the Cotton Bowl.
Oh my God! Where do they play the Cotton Bowl at? Is it still?
I don't know where.
Cotton Bowl, or?
An outdoor stadium.
Okay, so 8,000 to 10,000 for a Cotton Bowl game doesn't sound promising. It also doesn't sound promising that the Cotton Bowl.
Well, it wasn't the Cotton Bowl. I mean, it's called the First Responders Bowl.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes it a little better, I guess, but still.
Is there not a? Where do they play the Cotton Bowl at?
I don't know. I think they play it at Jerry Jones's house now.
No, because that's an enclosed stadium.
Yeah, that's the Cotton Bowl. But what I'm saying is
that's
where
Cotton
they
Bowl.
play the Cotton Bowl now.
There must be a stadium called the Cotton Bowl. There's a stadium called the Cotton Bowl.
There used to be, yeah, because the Cotton Bowl used to be played at the Cotton Bowl.
I'm on the website right now. Well, that's where they played it.
Okay.
At the Fair Parks Cotton Bowl. I'm on the website right now looking at it.
Well, why aren't they finishing the game?
They just that's been the news. I mean, they just canceled the game. There was 8,000 people there, and I don't think they wanted to bring anybody back. Why the first became canceled? Here. Why a rare canceled here? Yeah, it was canceled around 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time Wednesday when officially considered a no contest. So the Boston College was leading 7-0, and they called it a no contest and canceled the game. At 10 minutes into it, they pulled everybody out of the stadium. Like I said, there were only 8,000 to 10,000 people in there.
That'll tell you the importance of bowl games.
Well, and that's a great point. And I know we usually do college basketball today, but you're kind of right. There's too many of these bowl games going on. I mean, I
there
watched one
to me,
this year.
the NCAA just admitted that bowl games don't mean anything.
By what, canceling it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure they made the call. I don't know who made this call.
I'm pretty sure it was the NCAA. They run it. I'm assuming that there's a TV contract involved for that game and sponsors. They probably had to give the money back, but Yeah, no, they
told everybody the deal was they told everybody that they could have refund their tickets, or they could have 2 free tickets plus 2 more free tickets. Since they only sold 8,000 to 10,000, and the Cotton Bowl holds what, 50,000, 60,000? Got to be somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
I would think so. But they could have
2 tickets for next year plus another 2 tickets next
plus
year?
2 more free tickets, so they can get 2 free tickets for next year plus 2 more free tickets, so they get 4 tickets free for next year.
Okay,
which means there probably isn't going to be a First Responders Bowl next year.
Oh, there probably will be. Just nobody will care, just like nobody does now, and that was proven. But all right, Steve.
This goes back to why I think they might. And we've had this discussion where they need to expand the college football playoffs and use a bowl game like this to have a playoff game rather than do these silly games.
Well, what I think should be done is this. I honestly think there should be 32 teams. I think the highest 16 seeds should all get a home game. That guarantees every game is sold out.
I like that, definitely.
I believe in the quarterfinal game, the higher seed should get a home game. Ooh, more sellouts. And then I believe in the Final Four. I believe the Final Four, you hold it at a stadium on the same day. Now, I think this. I think the Final Four should always be played at the Rose Bowl. Both games should be on the same day.
I was going to ask you that question. I was going to just ask you that question. Should they just use the Rose Bowl?
No, and it shouldn't be called the Rose Bowl. They ought to just call it the Final Four. And then you play a game at 3 o'clock. You play a game at 8 o'clock, just like they do for college football or college basketball. And then those teams stay there. And then the next week you play the national championship game there. That's what I would do. Because to me, there's no more iconic stadium in sports for college football
the Rose Bowl
than the Rose Bowl. You play the game there, and it solves everything. Number one, if you're playing a round of 32 game between the 32nd ranked team and the number one ranked team, you played it at the number one ranked team's field, it's going to be sold out. Every one of these games is going to be sold out.
Right.
You know, Central Florida's selling out their game in the 8-24 game. You get to the Elite Eight, you still got home games. You get to the Final Four, both games are played on the same day. The only problem with that is then you don't get as many fans from each team. So maybe you play the first game at 1 o'clock and the second game at 8 o'clock, move everybody out, bring in a new crowd. I don't know. I just like the Final Four they do it though. So screw it. Well, I'll just keep it the way I had it. 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock. You know, you got 100,000 people in there anyways. You got 25,000 from each school. Yeah. You played a damn game. The next week, you had a national championship game at the Rose Bowl in front of 100,000 people. The weather will probably be nice, but if it's not, well, then we could watch a game in rain with grass.
No, I'm going to tell you what. Like I said, I told you, Rose Bowl's 20 minutes from my house. I mean, from where we live, my wife works in Pasadena. She drives by the Rose Bowl every day and stares at it. And, I mean, it is a beautiful facility. It's iconic. The history tied to the Rose Bowl. But, I mean, you probably have to pay some royalties, but you just the NCAA call it the Run for the Roses. I mean, you have to pay the Kentucky Derby that, because that's what they call the Kentucky Derby. The Run for the Roses. But,
I would just say it's
come up with some coin phrase.
I wouldn't even use the Rose anything. I would just call it the Final Four at the Rose Bowl, and in the national championship at the Rose Bowl. That's it. Nothing else. That's it. 32 teams. December the 1st you start. December the 8th. This is just according to what the weekend is. That's when you started. But December 8th, 16. December 15th, 8. December 22nd, the Final Four. And then December 29th, the national championship game. And this is the thing. Over half of that time, kids ain't in school anyways, and they're all done before January the 1st. So when it comes time to go back to school, everybody can go back to school. Doesn't that work out better?
I agree.
All right, so it's settled.
Then you don't get the crap like what happened last night. It's the First Responders Bowl where, it's the game's insignificant enough.
Yeah.
And you got 10,000 people in the stands. They cancel the game, and it gives a black eye to everybody. I mean, I turned on the Today Show this morning at 7 o'clock, and the second and third story was about the game being canceled. I mean, that got to be that big of a story.
Well, that was the only way that game was going to be a big story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't even know it was being played. I've not watched a single bowl game yet this year. I've yet to find one that I had interested in watching. I was kind of like flipping around TV Saturday, waiting for the pro games to come on, the NFL games. I'm like, let me find a good bowl game to watch so we can talk about that. And I couldn't find one. Not that I cared enough to watch about. Now, let me ask you this, and tying along the same lines, should the NCAA just make the Final Four in Indianapolis every year?
For what? College basketball?
College basketball, Final Four.
Yeah,
just
that's
put
fine with me.
Put it in Lucas Oil. Put it in Lucas Oil every year. Why not? It's their home. It's their, it's their backyard.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about Indiana being in the Final Four and getting a home field advantage. Of course, Notre Dame could. But right now, you stick it in the South, those teams are getting the advantage. But you're never
we're talking basketball, right?
Yeah, but you still got teams in the South, and it still plays down south. Hell's at the Alamo Dome. I think it should be because basically the birthplace of basketball is Indiana. It wasn't James Naismith, and people that think that are idiots. But I would be fine with that.
I think that'd be another thing. It'd be cool just to have rather than have all these random spots and where you just have a destination, and it's the road to Indianapolis. And the Final Four is always just played in Indianapolis. But I think the problem there is typical.
Yeah, but everybody else wants a piece of it too, not just a big.
Well, everybody wants to bid. Everybody wants to bid, and the NCAA wants to create that opportunity.
Oh, hell yeah, the NCAA wants to get paid.
Gets paid, right? And if they go into Indianapolis every year, then they're going to say, "Well, we won't be able to bid this thing up because San Antonio may say, I'm going to give you a bigger cut than Indianapolis will give you." So we'll take that.
So tomorrow, Steve, we could talk a little Colts-Titans, which I know you can't wait for. We will also be talking the college football Final Four, which will finally be played on Saturday. So you come back tomorrow, live noon, gruelingtruth.net.
Yeah.
We'll be talking college football, the Final Four, and maybe a couple bowl games sprinkled in that seem like they might matter, even though they really don't, like Central Florida playing their game. That matters to me. It probably shouldn't because it's still meaningless. They should be in a playoff.
Well, I think Central Florida matters a lot.
It doesn't.
I mean, who's not rooting for Central Florida to keep winning?
But it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's just like last year when they beat Auburn. Everybody said, well, the game wasn't important to Auburn. It was more important to Central Florida. And that's true. So this is useless either way. Hopefully they win just so the snobs in the SEC don't go, see, they can't play with us because they played with you last year.
The fun of UCF winning is keep winning is how much pressure does it finally put on the NCAA to have to recognize them to give them a chance to play for a championship.
I don't think the NCAA gives two
shits
about
You're right.
Florida. And let's face it, most people in this world are fans of Alabama or Ohio State, and that's all they really care about anyways. As long as those teams aren't screwed over, everybody's good. So, yeah, we'll talk college football tomorrow. We'll pick all the NFL football games.
Do we have a guest?
We will. It's a surprise.
It's a surprise? Okay, we'll leave it a surprise.
It'll be a surprise.
Very good.
Yes. All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Remember, you can follow Steve Risley.
Brian's doing okay. Hope we didn't run him off.
We didn't run him off. He apologized because his phone died. I didn't let him back in. I didn't let him back in because I thought we were going to wrap the show up 23 minutes ago, but Steve kept rambling.
Goodbye.
I think we're going to make the introduction to the show Ramblin' Man.
By Bob Seger. Great song.
Lord, I was born around. I ain't going to sing because when I do, panties get wet. All right, guys, remember, you can hear us on, no, it wasn't Bob Seger. Lord, I was born a rambling man. Was that trying to make a living and doing the best I can? I don't know, but by tomorrow we'll know who it is. But we're going to wrap this show up. Remember, you can hear us on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeart. What, Steve?
Born a Rambling Man. Allman Brothers.
Okay. There you go.
Google is a wonderful thing, Mike. I tell you what.
I know. You wouldn't be able to remember a damn thing if it wasn't for Google.
You think we have any listeners anymore?
Just Betty in Omaha. All right, guys.
Goodbye,
for Brian Rauf, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.